There's something really captivating about woodworking, isn't there? Just that feeling, taking raw lumber and turning it into something solid, useful, beautiful even, like a bookshelf maybe, or a little side table. It just speaks to that urge to create something with your own hands. But then reality hits, right? Especially when you're starting out. That dream project, it sometimes turns into a nightmare. We've all been there, I think. The crooked shelves, the wobbly chairs, pieces that just will not fit together no matter what. It's frustrating. A real cycle of trial and, well, mostly error sometimes. Okay, so let's unpack this a bit. Today, we're diving into excerpts from Mastering Woodworking, avoiding common mistakes, and building with blueprints. We want to figure out why so many DIY projects fail, and, more importantly, how you can dodge those common pitfalls and actually get those rewarding results we're all aiming for. It's about changing the whole approach, really.
Yeah, it's fascinating, actually. You see the same problems crop up again and again. For beginners, sure, but even folks who've been at it a while. And what's great about looking at the sources, once you pinpoint those core issues, the fixes often become surprisingly clear, really quite impactful. So our goal here is to give you that clarity, sort of a shortcut to understanding what makes the difference between success and, well, a pile of expensive firewood. Save you time, materials, headaches, maybe give you a few aha moments along the way.
Absolutely. Let's kick things off with the big culprits, the main reasons these projects just fizzle out. First up, measurements. We all know the saying, right? Measure twice, cut once.
Yeah.
It's like the golden rule. But what does this source say about why people still mess this up so often? Is there something subtle we're missing?
That's a great point, because measure twice is one thing, but the source highlights how you measure and maybe when as being just as crucial. Often overlooked details like beginners tend to rush or they measure inconsistently, maybe from the left edge once, the right edge next time. Tiny variations creep in. The text really emphasizes always using a consistent reference point, or even better, using a marking knife instead of a thick pencil line.
A marking knife, how's that help?
Well, a pencil line has width, right? Maybe a 32nd of an inch. If you cut to the inside or the outside or the middle, boom, you've introduced error. But a marking knife, it scores a super thin, precise line, much less ambiguity. And these small errors, like the source says, they add up incredibly fast.
Okay, so one tiny mistake on one piece.
Exactly. Connected to another slightly off piece, then another. Suddenly nothing fits. Your whole assembly is skewed. Precision right from the start is absolutely critical. Everything builds on that first step. If the foundation's shaky, the whole thing's compromised.
That makes total sense. So beyond just slow down, what are the specific practical tips the source gives to really nail those measurements and avoid those compounding errors?
Right, it gets practical. First, like we said, consistently use that marking knife, especially for joints where things really need to line up. Second, consider using a story stick. That's just a scrap piece where you mark all your project's key dimensions. Then you transfer marks directly instead of relying on reading a tape measure over and over. Less chance of misreading.
A story stick. Interesting. Keep going.
Third, super important, make sure your wood is square before you start measuring and cutting anything critical. If your starting edge isn't truly straight or square, every measurement you pull from it will be off.
Right, garbage in, garbage out.
Precisely. And finally, invest in decent measuring tools. A good steel rule, a reliable combination square, maybe even calipers if you need really fine detail. Quality tools make a difference.
Okay, fantastic, actionable advice there. But let's say you've got perfect measurements. The force points out another big stumbling block. Using the wrong materials. We kind of know not all wood is the same, but what are the hidden traps here? The things beginners don't realize.
Yeah, this goes deeper than just hardness or looks, and the source brings up something often missed, even by experienced folks: acclimation. Wood movement due to humidity changes.
Acclimation. You mean letting the wood just sit in your shop for a bit?
Exactly. Wood breathes, basically. It absorbs moisture from the air, it releases it, it expands, it contracts. If you bring wood straight from the lumberyard, maybe it was stored somewhere damp or super dry, and immediately build with it in your workshop environment.
It's going to move later.
It will move, guaranteed. And
Right.
that movement can cause cracks, warped panels, joints pulling apart. Disaster. You need to let it adjust to your shop's humidity level for ideally a week or two before milling it.
Wow, okay. That's huge. What else about wood types?
Well, the grain structure matters a lot too. Pine, for example. It's cheap, great for practice, but it's soft, dense, easily, and the grain can tear out when you cut across it, leaving fuzzy edges.
Right. Not ideal for a fine finish.
Not without extra work. Oak, super durable, classic look, but it has large open pores. If you want a perfectly smooth glass-like finish, you need to fill those pores first, which is an extra step.
And harder woods.
Like maple.
Maple's dense, closed grain takes a beautiful finish, very durable, but it's tougher to cut and shape. You need really sharp tools and more force.
And plywood. Seems simple enough.
Usually is, but quality varies wildly. Cheap plywood can have voids inside, or the layers, the veneers, can separate to laminate, especially if it gets damp. Suddenly your sturdy box isn't so sturdy.
Okay, so acclimation, grain, potential defects. It's a lot to consider. So
Right.
for the listener standing there in the lumber aisle, what's the takeaway? How do they choose wisely? Research. Simple as that. The source is clear. Don't just grab the cheapest boards. Think about the project. Is it going outside? Needs weather resistance, like cedar? Is it fine furniture? Maybe cherry or walnut. But know they cost more and work differently. Understand the demands. Will it take abuse? Does it need a perfect finish? And definitely don't skimp on quality to save a few bucks. That cheap wood often costs more in the long run: frustration, wasted time, maybe even having to scrap the project. Patience with acclimation and knowledge of the material are key.
Good advice. Research and patience. Okay, that leads right into the third big reason projects fail.
Yeah.
Not having the right tools or trying to improvise. We've all done it, right?
Yeah.
Trying to cut a long straight line with just a handsaw.
Oh, yeah, or smoothing a big tabletop with just a block of sandpaper and elbow grease.
Exactly. So what are the real consequences of using the wrong tool beyond just making things harder? What does the source say about the impact on the final piece?
Well, the source puts it bluntly. You're basically setting yourself up for failure, or at least major frustration and a subpar result. Sure, you can cut a board with a handsaw, it says, but if your project needs precise angles, smooth finishes, you'll struggle without a miter saw or sander. The consequence is compromised quality. That handsaw cut won't be perfectly square or clean, so your joints won't fit tightly. Hand sanding a large area will almost certainly leave it uneven, maybe with visible scratches. It affects both the look and the structural integrity.
Right. It's not just about convenience. It's about the quality of the work.
Exactly. It's not about needing every fancy gadget under the sun, but you need a core set of tools that let you perform basic operations accurately and efficiently. Trying to build fine furniture with just, I don't know, a pocket knife and a rock, it's just not going to work well.
Makes sense. So for someone starting out or maybe wanting to improve their basic kit, what are the essential tools the source recommends? The ones that give the most bang for your buck?
It suggests being pragmatic. Start with good quality basics that will last. So number one, a reliable measuring tape and a good combination square. We talked about measurements. These are crucial.
Okay, measuring tools first. What else?
Decent drill.
Yeah.
For holes, obviously, but also for driving screws. Then a good circular saw with a sharp blade. That's your workhorse for cutting sheet goods and making straight cuts in lumber.
Circular saw, got it. Clamps.
Oh, absolutely essential. You can never have too many clamps. A few F-style clamps or parallel clamps are vital for holding pieces together securely while glue dries. Critical for strong joints.
Right, the glue up phase.
Yep. And finally, a random orbital sander. For getting those smooth, professional-looking finishes much faster and more consistently than by hand, those are the basics that'll take you a really long way.
Tape, square, drill, circular saw, clamps, sander. Seems manageable.
Yeah, and the source also mentions looking into simple shop-made jigs, like a cross-cut sled for your circular saw. They can dramatically increase the accuracy of basic tools without breaking the bank.
Okay, so we've covered bad measurements, wrong materials, missing tools, all big potential project killers. But here's where the source says things get really interesting. It argues that avoiding these pitfalls isn't just about fixing individual mistakes. It claims the real difference, the absolute game changer between a failed project and a successful one often boils down to one thing: the clarity of your plan. Tell us about that.
Exactly. This shifts the focus from fixing problems reactively to preventing them proactively. And the source draws a really stark contrast here. Think about how many beginners start. They see a cool picture online, maybe Pinterest, or they have a rough sketch on a napkin. They're excited. They dive in.
Been there.
Right. But without a detailed roadmap, it's so easy to miss a crucial step. Or forget how the joinery is supposed to work, like should this shelf sit in a simple groove of dado, or does it need a stronger joint, like a mortise and tenon?
And you don't realize until it's too late.
Precisely. Or you cut pieces wrong because you hadn't fully thought through the sequence and all the dimensions. It becomes chaotic. You're constantly putting out fires. Professionals, though, they rely on detailed blueprints. They essentially build the project twice, first on paper, meticulously planning every detail, then they build it with wood.
Okay, so a good set of plans, according to the source, basically eliminates the guesswork. It anticipates those pitfalls we discussed. What exactly does a good blueprint provide that a simple sketch doesn't?
Oh, it's night and day. A comprehensive blueprint is like having an expert whispering instructions in your ear the whole time. It's not just overall dimensions, it includes.
Like what? Give us the specifics.
Okay, first, a detailed cut list. Every single part, its exact size, sometimes even showing the best way to cut it from a standard board to minimize waste.
That's super useful.
Then, material specifications. Not just use oak, but maybe use quarter sawn white oak, 1 inch thick. And it lists all the hardware needed, specific screws, hinges, drawer slides, everything.
So you know exactly what to buy.
Exactly. Third, a tool list. Everything you'll need before you start, so no mid-project panic because you realize you need a specific router bit you don't have.
Okay, lists are good. What about the actual building?
That's the core. Step-by-step assembly instructions, breaking down the whole build into manageable stages. The order of operations, how to cut the joints, how to assemble subcomponents, then bring it all together. Plus, clear diagrams, exploded views showing how parts fit together, detailed drawings of tricky joints, visual guides to eliminate any confusion,
Wow.
and often even finishing schedules, suggesting things like what grit sandpaper to use, what type of stain or finish works best with that specific wood. It's incredibly thorough.
That level of detail sounds like it takes all the uncertainty out. So connecting this back to the bigger picture,
Yeah.
how does having that kind of plan change the whole experience? The learning curve, the enjoyment?
It's transformative, honestly. That frustrating cycle of trial and error, it becomes a confident, predictable process. You have a roadmap. This gives you the confidence to tackle more complex projects you might otherwise avoid. You know you have reliable guidance.
Right, less fear of messing up expensive wood.
Exactly. And you learn faster. Because each step is clearly defined, you can focus on practicing and mastering the technique for that step instead of constantly trying to figure out what the next step even is.
So it frees up mental energy.
Absolutely. The mental load of what if I do this wrong is lifted. You can relax more, immerse yourself in the actual craft, the feel of the wood, the precision of the cut. It makes woodworking accessible, even complex projects, because the heavy lifting of planning and problem solving has been done for you.
This is really compelling. If the blueprint is the secret sauce, where do people find these detailed plans? The force suggests using existing collections can be a huge shortcut, right?
Yeah, exactly. Why reinvent the wheel if you don't have to, especially when you're learning? The source material mentions resources like Ted's Woodworking as an example of this blueprint philosophy in action. What makes platforms like that valuable, and what ties into our discussion, is the sheer volume and detail they offer. We're talking potentially thousands of plans.
Thousands, for all sorts of things.
Everything from small crafts and birdhouses up to large furniture, sheds, you name it. And crucially, each plan typically comes with those elements we just discussed. The detailed step-by-step instructions, the materials lists, the clear diagrams. It solves the planning problem for you.
So, for the listener, the benefits described in the source are pretty clear then. Using these kinds of professional plans saves time, no more endless searching or guesswork.
Mm-hmm.
You avoid costly mistakes because the path is laid out. The source even says it makes it nearly impossible to mess up. It's a bold claim.
It is, but when a plan is truly comprehensive, it dramatically reduces the chances of error.
And the end result is projects that look and feel professional, which must be incredibly satisfying. It lets you start building with real confidence, knowing you've got a proven plan. Okay, let's quickly recap the main points. Woodworking should be enjoyable, right? Deeply satisfying, not this constant battle against frustration. And those common failure points, bad measurements, wrong wood choices, lack of the right tools, they're all avoidable if you approach it smartly.
Absolutely. And as the source emphasizes, that smart approach hinges on proper guidance and ideally those clear blueprints. It fundamentally shifts the experience. Knowledge is great, but applied knowledge is powerful. Applying clear plans turns woodworking from, a gamble into a predictable journey towards success. It helps you build skills, build confidence, and really just enjoy the craft more.
So here's a final thought for you, our listener, to chew on. Think about your next woodworking project, sure, but maybe zoom out a bit. Think about any kind of build you're tackling in life. Could be a work project, a personal goal, maybe even just getting organized at home. How could applying this blueprint approach help you there? Taking the time for detailed planning, really understanding the materials you're working with. Maybe that means people, resources, information, and making sure you have the right tools for the job. How might that kind of structured thinking help you avoid common pitfalls and achieve a more professional, more satisfying outcome, whatever you're trying to create? Where else could clear step-by-step planning make a real difference? Something to think about.